Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us His truth and who rule well. Peace and love, salutations and mercy be unto the hopeful elect. You Akim and few Akwatim that believe in sincerity in Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole body, your whole spirit, and who are waiting for these few and final prophecies to unfold and happen in the earth, and the return of our Savior, Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who's coming back to save and to redeem the children of Israel, beginning with the elect. He's going to cause us to inherit the promises that were promised unto our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But before that can happen, things have to play out in the earth. The MOTB system has to be established. World War III has to kick off. The time of Jacob's trouble, the time of great famine, and the time of great death. Esau is a big devil. And you're going to pay for the things that you have done unto the children of Israel. All of your wickedness in the name of science, all right, in the name of modern medicine that you performed upon our people without, the consent of them, without the permission of them, and if it be children, without the consent and the permission of their parents, all right, and the lethal things that you put inside of them, taking, the bodies of stillborn children, and testing, your radiation on them, for radiation fallout for your nuclear program. When you go back to World War II, for putting plutonium inside of men and women without their consent, just to study, how plutonium, or radiation would affect the human body or live flesh. These are things that were done, and it's because of reasons like this, why our people don't trust you. And that's the wise ones, that is. But nonetheless, in any regard, you should never trust this man. The scriptures warn you not to trust him. When you go into scriptures like the book of Sirach, the 13th chapter, or the 12th chapter, in the 10th verse, it says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Who would pity a charmer that is bitten with the serpent, or any such as come now wild beasts? And Esau is that serpent. He's that little serpent that grew into a great dragon that's ruling over the earth. And guess what? He wants to bite you. Now a serpent, when it attacks, it doesn't just go straight, for the jugular. It coils around you, and it gets itself into a position, and then it starts to tighten its grip tighter and tighter to the point where you're constricted. You can't breathe. And that's when he slowly devours you. And that's the same way that Esau thinks, with his cunning devices. This devil is very lethal. And the day is going to come, when all of the things that you have done, will come upon your own pate. It will come upon your own head. All right. There's a scripture in the book of Psalms, the 7th chapter, and verse 16, it says, his mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down with upon his own pate, which means that all of the things that you have done is about to return upon your own head. All right, and your own heads, being the rich elite banking families. All right, you're going to be the first ones to go into slavery. All right, and to experience, what it feels like to receive double for the ill treatment of what you've done unto the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the true children of Israel. All right, all of your schemes, all of your devices, all of your plots, all of your conspiracy, whatever it be, you're about to pay for this. Now, before proceeding further, the word mischief, the word there is aimal, and it says toil, trouble, labor. All right. Once again, the word aimal, all right, is dealing with the word toil or labor. In the self-proclaimed white man is laboring in wickedness. All right, and at every avenue or every aspect, every corner, every turn, all right, he's doing whatever he can or has done whatever he can, all right, to oppress, to bring down, to constrict, all right, to kill, to destroy, the children of Israel. But guess what? All of those things that you have done, you're about to reap. Now, one thing in particular, all right, that this devil has done, all right, when you go back to the early 1940s, leading up into the 1960s, all right, this devil tested plutonium, on, unsuspected, I don't want to say unsuspected, but on Jakes without their consent, without their knowledge, without their understanding, without telling them. What kind of devil does that? All right, he did it for the sake of science. He did it for the sake of modern medicine. A U.S. government program secretly injected people with plutonium. The horrors of the nuclear age in terms of exploding reactors and nuclear bombs are well known. Behind the well-publicized threat of mass death lies a secret history of nuclear projects being used to destroy individuals in the late 1940s. United States citizens were injected with plutonium without their knowledge. And these particular citizens, all right, if it's even right to call them that, all right, because unto this day, we're still not treated like citizens. All right, we don't have any rights. All right. We only have privileges, or the rights that are given to us, or the liberties that are given to us, which are certain privileges that are given to us according to these people that are the slave owners. All right. But the time is going to come when we're going to have absolute true freedom. And that's under the kingdom of Yahushua, which is also the kingdom of Israel. But you know who's not going to have their freedom? The Edomites. All right, beginning with the elites. All right, and all of these other nations are going to be in slavery too. But after 1,000 years, guess what? They're going to be able to go back and to have their lives, all right, their families, their lands, still being tributaries unto us. But the only one that would not enjoy that is Esau Edom. In early 1945, Eb Cade, a worker at the Oak Ridge nuclear facility, got into a car wreck. He survived, but was bedbound with a broken arm and a broken leg. When doctors interviewed him, they ascertained that the 53-year-old man, all right, 53-year-old, they call him an African-American man, but really he's a Judite, was otherwise perfectly healthy, eating well, drinking well, and had no history of serious illness. And so, having obtained a healthy subject, on April 10th, his doctor secretly injected him with 4.7 micrograms of plutonium. All right, who exactly ordered the injection and who exactly administered it has never been determined, with the most likely candidates all contradicting each other. So they were all in on it. If they're contradicting each other, they were all in on it. All right. What is certain is that no one administered the dose for the man's health. All right. Although radium was still being touted by unscrupulous companies to the masses as a health tonic, enough people had gotten cancer and radiation sickness that any scientist knew that radiation was bad news. Since the beginning of the Manhattan Project, tests had been done to see how plutonium isotope affects living beings. Why? Because eventually they were going to use, this particular chemical, all right, on people by way of using an atomic bomb, all right, which is nuclear energy. Animals have been fed and injected with the element, and their subsequent health problems were noted. When a scientist working on separating isotopes of plutonium had gotten a face full of gas, his stomach was pumped to get out the plutonium he had swallowed, and his face was thoroughly scrubbed. Over the next 5 days after the injections, doctors collected any excretion, all right, from Cade to see how much plutonium he retained in his body. Other tests were more invasive. His bones weren't set until April 15th, and before they were set, samples were cut out of them to see how much plutonium had moved into the bone tissue. So they were torturing this man. All for what? All right. 15 of the teeth were pulled and sampled for plutonium as well. All right. Eb Cade was never informed about the reason for any of this, but he might have had an idea of what was happening to him. According to one account, one morning a nurse opened his door to find he fled during the night. He died in 1953 of heart failure. All right, he was the first person to be injected with plutonium in the United States, but not the last. The next 3 injectees were patients suffering from cancer who had come into Billings Hospital in Chicago for treatment. From April through December, a man in his 60s suffering from lung cancer, a woman in her 50s suffering from breast cancer, and a young man suffering from Hodgkin's lymphoma were all injected. Not much is known about the third patient. He was not mentioned in many official reports, nor is the date of his death known. What is known is he was injected with 95 micrograms of plutonium, roughly 15 times what any one before had been injected with. So the reason that they were doing the study, they knew that eventually, all right, they were going to deal with this particular substance, all right, via the Manhattan Project. So they wanted to know how these things will affect the human body, or affect human tissue, but they wasn't satisfied with, the way that it was affecting, older people. They wanted to see how it will also affect children, ultimately because, by children being younger, they were more susceptible to radiation, so their body will absorb it more. All right. And we're going to get into that. The University of Rochester also became the next facility to start injection of plutonium, as well as other radioactive isotopes, including polonium and uranium. The director of the program there wrote that nearly all the patients had diagnosed diagnosis that meant they were likely to live for more than 5 years. Although it's true that many patients did have serious illnesses, many had illnesses that allowed for more than 10 years of life. Three were still living when the investigation into the plutonium injection began in 1974, and one was misdiagnosed entirely. Researchers at the University of California also took part in the experiments. In May of 1945, Albert Stevens came in for treatment of his stomach cancer. He was injected with plutonium. After the injections, it was found that the cancer was actually an ulcer. When Stevens thought about moving away, he was offered a stipend to stay in the area so the lab could continue to test him for radiation, but he was never told about the injection. In April of 1946, Simon Shaw, a 4-year-old boy suffering from bone cancer, was the next test subject. His parents, who had brought him from Australia for treatment in the United States, were told that the injections and a subsequent removal of some bone tissue was part of the cancer treatment. When he got sicker, his parents brought him back to Australia, where he died. It wasn't until 30 years later that they found out that their son was actually injected, or what their son was actually injected with. So you see that this man is a devil. All right. Now, testing it on adults wasn't enough. All right. They needed to see, how young tissue, would absorb this substance. So there was something called Project Sunshine, which under Project Sunshine, they Esau, showed the true devil that he was, and he would steal bodies. He was a body snatcher. He would steal bodies of young stillborn or dead children, to use that particular chemical or substance on, to see how it affected the younger tissue and how much the younger tissue absorbed it. So that project was called Project Sunshine, which was a series of research studies that began in 1953 to ascertain the impact of radioactive fallout on the world's population. The project was initially kept secret and only became known publicly in 1956. Now, this is coming from Wikipedia. The last article that I read came from Gizmodo.com. All right. Reading on in Wikipedia, commissioned jointly by the United States Atomic Energy Commission, and the USAF Project REN, Sunshine sought to examine the long-term effect of nuclear radiation on the biosphere due to the repeated nuclear detonations of the increasing yield. With the conclusion from Project Gabriel, the radioactive isotope SR90, which SR90 is strontium. All right. So going back, let's see if I can go back. It says its concentration in the tissue and bones of the dead. Of particular interest was tissue from the young, whose developing bones have the highest propensity to accumulate SR90 and thus the highest susceptibility to radiation damage. Sunshine elicited a great deal of controversy when it was revealed that many of the remain samples were utilized without prior permission from the deceased or from the relatives of the dead, which wasn't known until many years later. Controversial history. On January 18, 1955, the AEC Commissioner, Dr. Willard Libby, said that there were insufficient data regarding the effects of the fallout due to the lack of human samples, especially samples taken from children, to analyze. Libby was quoted saying, "I don't know how to get them, but I do say that it is a matter of prime importance to get them, and particularly in the young age group. So human samples are often of prime importance, and if anybody knows how to do a good job of body snatching, they will really be serving their country." All right, this led to over 1,500 samples being gathered, of which only 500 were analyzed. Many of the 1,500 samples cadavers were babies and young children and were taken from countries from Australia to Europe, often without the parents' consent or knowledge. According to the investigation launched at a British newspaper, reported that British scientists had obtained children's bodies from various hospitals and shipped their body parts to the United States. A British mother had said that her stillborn baby's legs were removed by British doctors to prevent her from finding out what happened. She was not allowed to dress the baby for the funeral. So you see how much of a devil this is. Now, this was unsuspecting Jakes. This was also, people's babies, or their dead babies that were taken from different parts of the world that this was done on. And this is not even accounting for, the nation that they actually dropped the bomb on, all right, or the bombs on, which is dealing with Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So ultimately, what's getting ready to happen to Esau is that he's going to pay, for this action and what he did in the earth, especially what he done unto the children of Israel. All right, Yahweh Bashmiah Washai is about to cause you to reap what you have sown, in every aspect. But this particular aspect, I'm just dealing with this nuclear radiation. All right, you're going to be paid back for slavery. You better believe that, or your ass is going to be paid back for that. All right, and every ill thing that you have done to the children of Israel, you're going to reap double for that. All right, the scripture saying Galatians 6 and 7, "Be not deceived, Yahweh is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap." The book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, verse 6, "Reward her even as she have rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. And the cup which she have filled, fill into her double." So beginning with you elites, you're going into slavery. All right, and you're going to feel the traumatic events and aspects of the things that you've done to us. All right, with the exception that certain things can't be done unto you because they're so vile and so wicked that they'll violate our law. All right, but other things we're going to be justified for. Oh yeah, you going into yokes of iron. You going into chains and shackles. It don't matter how old you are or how young you are. All right, but not to drift too far away. All right, in regards to that uranium and the plutonium, well, the Lord is going to cause you to reap what you have sown. All right, because he's gonna have it to where these other nations use that on you via thermonuclear missiles. The book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, in the 13th verse, "Because of the wrath of Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited." And what's not going to be inhabited? Babylon, the whore. All right, this place, which is spiritually known as Babylon. "But it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues." All right, and the last and final plague, according to Revelation, the 15th chapter, will be the thermonuclear destruction. Revelation 15 and 2, "And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having harps." All right, the harps of Yahweh. All right, and they sung, as it were, the song of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, and the song of the Lamb, saying, "Great and marvelous are thy works, Yahweh power, almighty, just and true are thy works, thou King of saints." Now, what did they just escape? All right, to be standing on a sea of glass in a chariot, looking through the windows, looking through the firmament, on this particular country burning, in certain other parts of the world burning, they escaped the final plague. So Revelation 15:1, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of Yahweh. So that 7th plague is thermonuclear destruction. The book of Job, the fifth chapter, and the 19th verse, which reads, He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, and in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. See? So the 7th trouble is a thermonuclear destruction. And how are we going to escape that? Yahweh Ratazah, if we be part of the elect, well, the Lord is going to hide us. All right, He's going to hide us in his bosom. He's going to hide us in those chariots, to escape the thermonuclear destruction. Psalms 91:1, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of Yahweh, He is my refuge and my fortress, my power, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. All right, His truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid from the terror by night, nor from the arrow that flieth by day. All right, because the arrow, all right, is a metaphor for the ICBM missile. Nor from the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Because when these missiles detonate, all right, when they're finally shot out in the earth, all right, it's going to sweep through the land as a wave, as a heat wave, all right, of fire, all right, as a heat wave of fire and a burst of energy, combustion of great heat, that burns hotter than the sun, and it's going to cook, the people that are left in it, so fast that is going to take the humidity, out of the air and the, the liquid out of the body. That's the reason why in the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter, verse 12, it says, And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh shall smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall be consumed away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So this is one of the plagues that is coming upon Babylon the whore. And this is the reason why people are going to hiss at her, all right, when they pass by, although no one's going to step foot on this land anymore, but they're going to see the smoke of her torment rising up. All right. Verse 14, Put yourselves in array against Babylon, round about, all ye that bend the bow, and shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she have sinned against Yahweh. And that's why when you go into the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, it says that her sins have reached up into the heavens. All right, you sinned against Yahweh by touching the apple of His eye, by the things that you did unto the true Israelites that you held captive in this land and refused to let them go. Verse 15, shout against her round about. She have given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her, as she have done do unto her. So these nations, Yahweh is putting it in their heart to take vengeance upon this land. And as it says in the scriptures, as she have done, do unto her. All right, going down to the 29th verse. All right, which reads, it says, Call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow. Camp against it round about, All right, let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she have done, do unto her. For she have been proud against Yahweh and against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore her young men shall fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Yahweh. And not only are the young men are going to fall in the streets, all right, but women and children as well. And what's going to cause them to fall in the streets? Well, that thermonuclear destruction. The book of Isaiah, the 13th chapter, in the 18th verse, it says, their bows also shall dash the young men in pieces, all right, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. Why? Because you use this on people. The plutonium, the uranium, the other word that starts with S, I forget the name of it. All of this radiation, that you use, all right, to perfect your sword. All right, now that sword, which is the ICBM missile, is going to be used on you. You're getting ready to reap what you sown. All right, you injected the Lord's people with that radiation. All right, to see how it would affect their bodies. You took, babies and infected them, with it, to see how it would affect young flesh. Well, the Lord is about to cause that weapon that you have helped to perfect to come down upon your own pate. So with that, I truly hope that this lesson has been edifying. Until the next time, Shalom.